Egypt, land of pharaohs and pyramids, where time itself seemed to bow before the weight of millennia. Yet by the mid-4th century BC, this once mighty civilization was a shadow of its former glory, its people yearning for a savior. From the north, a young king, barely out of his teens, swept across the known world, conquering all in his path. Alexander the Great. His eyes were set on the Persian Empire, and Egypt lay directly in his path. But what awaited Alexander in the land of the Nile was not the fierce resistance he expected. Instead, he found a people desperate for liberation, a culture ripe for transformation, and a destiny that would intertwine his name with the very soul of Egypt. Forever. This is the story of how a conqueror became a pharaoh, a god, and a legend. This is the story of Alexander in Egypt.
By the mid-4th century BC, Egypt was a land where time seemed to stand still. The ancient pyramids, like the step pyramid of Djoser at Saqqara, had watched over the desert sands for over 2 millennia. The legacies of pharaohs like Nefertiti, Akhenaten, and Tutankhamun were already 1,000 years old, their names whispers on the desert wind. Yet Egypt's glory had faded due to foreign invasions and internal strife, leaving its people yearning for revival. In 332 BC, as the sun bathed the Nile in gold, a young Macedonian king named Alexander appeared. Barely in his 20s, Alexander the Great had already carved a path of conquest across the known world. His eyes were set on the Persian Empire, which spanned from the Aegean Sea to India. In just 2 years, he had crushed Persian power in battles like Issus, defeating King Darius III, and had taken the cities of Tyre and Gaza. As Alexander approached Egypt's borders, anticipation hung in the air. The land was under Persian rule, governed by satraps who had oppressed the Egyptians. Memories lingered of Persian kings like Cambyses II and Artaxerxes III, accused of desecrating temples and killing the sacred Apis bull, an affront to Egyptian faith. The Egyptians, burdened by these offences, watched as Alexander's army neared. But instead of resistance, Alexander was welcomed with open arms. Egyptian priests and nobles saw him as a liberator who would free them from Persian domination. The Persian governor surrendered without a fight. As Alexander entered Memphis, the traditional capital along the Nile, the city erupted in celebration. Amid Memphis's grandeur, with its towering temples and bustling bazaars, Alexander showed wisdom beyond his years. He honored his Macedonian heritage by hosting Greek athletic games and musical contests, filling the air with music and cheers. Yet he also immersed himself in Egyptian culture. Most profoundly, he paid homage to the Apis bull, a sacred animal symbolizing kingship and divinity. In the sanctuaries of Memphis, Alexander approached the priests of Apis. The bull, adorned with divine symbols, embodied Ptah in life and Osiris after death. By sacrificing to Apis, Alexander did more than perform a ritual. He bridged 2 worlds. The Egyptians saw in him a ruler who respected their gods and traditions, a stark contrast to past Persian sacrilege. Word spread along the Nile. The new pharaoh honored the old ways. This gesture resonated deeply with the people. In the Serapeum at Saqqara, where massive granite sarcophagi housed mummified Apis bulls, priests might have whispered prayers of gratitude. Though it's uncertain if Alexander visited these catacombs, his reverence left an indelible mark. As the sun set over the Nile, casting shadows across the temples, Alexander stood at destiny's crossroads. Egypt had embraced him, and he embraced its spirit. He was no longer just a conqueror, he was becoming part of Egypt's eternal story. But his journey was far from over. The whispers of oracles and the allure of divine favor beckoned him further. Greater challenges and revelations awaited. a path that would intertwine his fate with Egypt in unimaginable ways. With the Nile receding behind him, Alexander gazed toward the Mediterranean. An idea took root, a city bearing his name, standing as a beacon of knowledge and culture. On shores where sea met delta, he founded Alexandria. Meticulously planned with wide avenues and grand edifices, the city embodied a fusion of Greek and Egyptian aesthetics. It was to be a hub where scholars and merchants from all corners converged. Yet a deeper calling stirred within Alexander, a yearning to understand his place in the cosmos. Tales reached him of the Oracle of Amun at the Siwa Oasis, a mystical sanctuary deep in the Libyan desert where gods spoke through priests. Undeterred by the treacherous journey, Alexander led a small contingent across unforgiving sands. The desert tested them with scorching days and cold nights, but they pressed on, guided by omens and stars. At last, Siwa's verdant palms emerged like a mirage made real. Upon arrival, priests greeted Alexander with reverence, calling him the son of Amun, a declaration that shook him. Entering the sacred temple, he stood before the god's effigy, the air thick with incense and ancient weight. What transpired remains a mystery, but when he emerged, his countenance had changed. The divine had spoken, affirming his destiny not just as a king, but as a god among men. This revelation was more than personal enlightenment. It was a powerful tool. Proclaimed the son of Amun, whom Greeks identified with Zeus, Alexander's authority now had divine backing. This elevated status resonated in Egypt, where pharaohs were seen as gods on earth. Returning, Alexander's army rested along the Nile's banks. Soldiers mingled with locals, stories were exchanged, cultures intertwined. In spring 331 BC, with the Nile rising, Alexander prepared to depart. His gaze turned eastward toward Persia's remaining might, but Egypt had left its mark on him. Evidence of his impact endured long after. In Thebes, at Luxor Temple, artisans carved his likeness into stone. Within the holiest chambers, Alexander was depicted not as a foreign conqueror, but as a traditional Egyptian pharaoh. Clad in royal regalia, he offered tributes to gods like Amun-Ra, his features immortalized alongside ancient rulers. These images were more than art. They symbolized a new era. Alexander's embrace of Egyptian customs signified a cultural fusion that would shape the region for centuries. Egyptians saw in him a continuation of their divine lineage. Greeks found in Egypt a wellspring of wisdom. As years unfolded, Alexandria flourished beyond imagination. The great library amassed knowledge from across the world, becoming a beacon of learning. The lighthouse of pharaohs rose from the harbour, its light guiding sailors, a metaphor for the enlightenment the city offered. But fate is inexorable. At 32, Alexander's life was cut short, his vast empire left without its unifying force. In Egypt, however, his legacy endured. The Ptolemaic dynasty, founded by his general Ptolemy, continued the synthesis of Greek and Egyptian cultures. Cleopatra, the last of the Ptolemies, became a symbol of this enduring fusion. His footprints may have faded, but his influence is carved into Egypt's bedrock. The stories, monuments, and cultural tapestry bear witness to when history was forever altered. Alexander the Great became more than a name. He became a legend woven into Egypt's eternal narrative. For centuries, the Great Sphinx of Giza has stood as a silent guardian of Egypt's Giza Plateau, watching over the pyramids and the Nile. Its lion's body and human head have inspired myths, legends, and scholarly debate. But beneath its imposing form lies a deeper enigma. What secrets does the Sphinx hold? And who were the architects behind its creation? The rediscovery of the Sphinx happened long after its original construction. For much of its history, it was almost entirely buried under sand, with only its head visible. In 1817, Italian explorer Captain Giovanni Battista Caviglia led an early excavation, clearing some of the sand to reveal more of the body. Yet, there were no signs of entrances or hidden chambers. The major breakthrough came in the 1920s and 1930s, when French Egyptologist Émile Barrès conducted a more systematic excavation, fully exposing the Sphinx's body. Evidence of subterranean passages led to speculation about what lay beneath this ancient monument. Could this be the legendary Hall of Records, a hidden repository of ancient knowledge? In the 1970s and 1980s, modern technology like ground-penetrating radar and seismographs was used by archaeologists such as Dr. Mark Lehner and John Anthony West. Their findings revealed anomalies, hollow spaces beneath the Sphinx, raising new questions. What were these voids for? Were they ritual chambers, tombs, or something more? These discoveries have sparked the imagination of both scholars and the public. Many speculate about ancient knowledge hidden within these tunnels and chambers which remain largely unexplored. The idea of the Hall of Records, a fabled repository of wisdom from a pre-dynastic civilization, persists, though no solid evidence has confirmed its existence. As for the dimensions of these hidden spaces, some tunnels extend nearly 30 meters, with chambers reaching heights of 5 meters. The complexity and scale of these cavities astonish researchers, as their construction would have required precise engineering to avoid damaging the Sphinx above. Could a civilization over 4,000 years ago really have achieved this with primitive tools? One particularly mysterious feature is a metal hatch discovered on the Sphinx's head during a 20th century restoration. While some believe it's a modern addition for maintenance, others suggest more fantastical possibilities. Was this hatch a secret entry to hidden chambers? Could it be a relic of a lost technology designed by the builders for some unknown purpose? The question remains, who built the Sphinx, and how did they achieve such a perfect blend of form and function? The Sphinx is an impressive 240 feet long, 66 feet high, and 62 feet wide. Carved from a single mass of limestone bedrock, its weight is estimated at 200 tons. Its dimensions are comparable to a modern football field, and its height rivals a 6-story building. Given the rudimentary copper tools available to the ancient Egyptians, this achievement seems almost impossible. While scholars attribute the construction of the Sphinx to Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BCE, some researchers believe it may be much older. Evidence of water erosion suggests the Sphinx may have been exposed to heavy rainfall centuries ago, dating it to as early as 10,000 BCE. This theory challenges conventional timelines, suggesting the Sphinx was built by an even older, lost civilization. Could the Sphinx have been constructed by a forgotten culture, equipped with knowledge and technology far beyond what we attribute to the Egyptians? The discovery of hidden chambers beneath the monument only adds to this speculation. Were these spaces used to store ancient texts, or perhaps to honor deities through ritualistic practices? Yet, as we uncover more about the Sphinx, the techniques used to build it remain just as mysterious. How did these ancient builders move and shape the enormous stone blocks? Theories abound about the construction methods. It is believed that tens of thousands of laborers worked together, using wooden sledges and water-lubricated sand to transport massive stones across the desert. While modern experiments have shown this method is possible, some argue that a lost technology or unknown knowledge must have been involved. More speculative theories propose that the builders might have used advanced tools or sound resonance to manipulate the stone. The deeper we dig into the mysteries of the Sphinx, the more questions we uncover. But one thing is certain. As we continue to explore the hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx, the story of its creation grows ever more fascinating. History, it seems, is never truly set in stone. New discoveries and secrets lie waiting to be uncovered. Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not what the Sphinx reveals, but what it continues to keep hidden. In the shadow of the Sphinx, we are left wondering, who built this ancient monument and why? How did they achieve such precision, and what was the true purpose of the Sphinx and its surrounding megastructures? The most common theory is that the Sphinx was commissioned by Pharaoh Khafre, who also built the second largest pyramid on the Giza plateau. But some evidence calls this theory into question. Water erosion patterns on the Sphinx's body suggest it could be far older, possibly dating back to 10,000 BCE, when Egypt experienced heavier rainfall. If this is true, it would mean the Sphinx predates the Egyptian civilization by thousands of years, suggesting the existence of a forgotten culture. Could this lost civilization have been responsible for building the Sphinx? And if so, why are there no other traces of their presence? These questions fuel conspiracy theories that continue to captivate the imagination. One theory proposes that the Sphinx was built not as a tomb, but as an astronomical observatory. Its alignment with the constellation Leo during the vernal equinox suggests a connection to the stars, possibly serving as a marker of time or even a communication device with other worlds. Another theory suggests that the Sphinx and pyramids were part of an ancient energy system. Some believe the pyramids were energy generators, with the Sphinx acting as a control mechanism. The alignment of these structures with the Earth's magnetic field, combined with their proximity to the Nile, supports this idea. Though no concrete evidence backs this claim, it remains a compelling alternative explanation for their purpose. But the mysteries don't stop there. What other secrets might be hidden beneath the Sphinx? Beneath the Sphinx, unexplored chambers continue to spark speculation. Could these be the fabled Hall of Records? According to legend, this hidden vault contains the lost wisdom of an ancient civilization, possibly Atlantis. Though no one has conclusively discovered it, the search for the Hall of Records continues to intrigue explorers. And then, there are those who believe the Sphinx's builders had help from beyond this world. Extraterrestrial theories surrounding the Sphinx have persisted for decades. Some claim that the precision and scale of its construction are too advanced for the period, suggesting ancient Egyptians had assistance from extraterrestrial visitors. While this remains in the realm of science fiction, it highlights the fascination the Sphinx holds over the human imagination. Yet, even without the intervention of alien hands, the Sphinx and its surrounding pyramids are marvels of engineering. As we stand before the Sphinx, we are left with more questions than answers. What was its true purpose? Who were its builders? And why does it continue to mystify us after thousands of years? And so, the Great Sphinx of Giza remains, watching over the desert, guarding secrets that may never be fully understood. What lies beneath its pores, in hidden chambers, or in the past still waiting to be uncovered? Only time, and perhaps future discoveries, will reveal the answers. Until then, the Sphinx will keep its secrets, waiting patiently for the day when we are ready to understand what it truly has to tell us. A desolate landscape stretches before us, a mere 185 kilometers northeast of the iconic pyramids of Giza. Here lies Tanis, a city shrouded in mystery, once a place of immense power and sacred significance. The ancient Egyptians called it Janet, the City of the Sun, a holy site dedicated to Amun-Ra, the god of the sun and creation. This is what met the eyes of the first explorers in 1878, a scene of utter devastation. The soil, barren and unforgiving, supports little life save for a few resilient thorny bushes. Priceless statues bear the scars of intense heat. Gigantic stone pillars lie smashed and broken, like forgotten toys of giants. Was this city cursed, struck down by the wrath of gods, or was it simply abandoned to the ravages of time? Let's rewind the clock. Tanis, known as Janet, Zoan in the Old Testament, and today as San el-Hagar, is a name whispered throughout history. Egyptologists generally agree it rose to prominence during the 21st dynasty, between 1069 and 945 BC, supplanting Thebes as Egypt's capital. But the narrative is far more complex. The discovery of massive Old Kingdom statues and artifacts within its ruins hints at a far more ancient origin, lost in the mists of time. Imagine a city dominated by an enormous temple complex dedicated to Amun-Ra, a royal palace. Bustling residential areas, all built with colossal granite pillars. These weren't just any stones. We're talking about 20 to 30-ton monoliths, painstakingly quarried, carved, and transported over 1,000 kilometers from Aswan in southern Egypt. Even with today's technology, this would be a monumental undertaking. Tanis was no vulnerable settlement. Fortifications, including massive walls and gates, were erected to defend against invaders. Picture walls, 70 feet thick, soaring 50 feet high, constructed from over 20 million mud bricks, each one potentially adorned with hieroglyphs and reliefs, a testament to the city's grandeur. Sadly, only fragments of these walls remain, eroded by millennia of wind and sand. Beyond its spiritual and political importance, Tanis has yielded some truly staggering megalithic artifacts. Our understanding of this city partially stems from Napoleon Bonaparte's 1798 expedition. He claimed 2 pink granite sphinxes, now housed in the Louvre, silent witnesses to Tanis's past. Countless other massive granite statues and artifacts have been unearthed, gracing museums worldwide, while others remain in Tanis, now an open-air museum. But perhaps the most mind-boggling discovery is a colossal foot, unearthed by the renowned Flinders Petrie in the late 1800s. Based on his meticulous scalings and comparisons to other colossi, Petrie estimated the original statue to have stood a staggering 100 feet tall. This is double the height of the colossi of Memnon. How did a civilization using seemingly primitive tools, copper chisels and wooden rollers, carve, transport, and erect a statue weighing an estimated 1,500 tons? It's a feat comparable to building the Statue of Liberty. The mind reels at the sheer scale of this undertaking. In 1939, French Egyptologist Pierre Montet made a discovery that should have rivaled Howard Carter's find in the Valley of the Kings. He uncovered the royal tomb complex at Tanis, containing 3 intact burial chambers. The treasures within were breathtaking: golden masks, bracelets, tableware, necklaces, and ornate sarcophagi, all crafted with exquisite artistry. Had it not been for the outbreak of World War II, these treasures would undoubtedly be as famous as Tutankhamun's. Even today, Montet's discoveries at Tanis are relatively unknown, overshadowed by the more publicized finds. The exact cause of Tanis's decline remains a puzzle. The conventional narrative, favored by many Egyptologists, points to a shift in political power, with cities like Sais and eventually Alexandria rising to prominence. The changing course of the Nile is another factor. As the river shifted, it likely caused flooding and erosion, rendering the area less habitable. However, let's delve deeper. If the city was simply abandoned, wouldn't the inhabitants have taken their valuables? Why leave behind hoards of treasure? The photographs from the initial rediscovery of Tanis reveal a scene of almost biblical destruction. And perhaps there's a reason for that. Remember, Tanis is the biblical zone. In Ezekiel 30:14, the prophet foretells its doom. "I will lay waste to Upper Egypt, set fire to Zoan, and inflict punishment on Thebes." Could this be a clue? Egypt's fertile lands and strategic location have made it a battleground for millennia. Alexander the Great, the Sasanian Persians, and the Crusaders all marched through this region, leaving their mark. Could fierce battles have contributed to Tanis's destruction? Earthquakes too have plagued Egypt throughout history. While they could explain some of the damage, they don't account for the scorch marks found on many artifacts. Look closely at this statue. The right side of its face shows clear signs of intense heat. Granite requires temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees Celsius to exhibit such damage. Was this divine retribution, a lightning strike, a meteor airburst, or the result of a more earthly weapon? One intriguing possibility is Greek fire, a devastating incendiary weapon used by the Eastern Roman Empire from around 672 AD. This terrifying concoction, likely a mixture of naphtha and quicklime, could ignite upon contact with water and was projected from flame-throwing devices. Could Greek fire have been used to raise Tanis? While primarily a naval weapon, it's conceivable that Greek fire, or a similar incendiary technology, could have been adapted for land-based warfare. The destruction at Tanis, particularly the scorched stone that requires temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees Celsius to achieve, aligns with the potential destructive power of such a weapon. While the spectre of Greek fire is certainly captivating, there's another, perhaps more grounded explanation for the intense fire damage at Tanis. We must remember that Tanis was a major religious and administrative center for centuries. It's conceivable that large-scale industrial or ritualistic activities involving intense, sustained heat took place within the city. It's important to note that this explanation doesn't necessarily contradict the others. A natural disaster, a battle, or even an attack using incendiary weapons could have triggered the initial blaze, which then escalated due to the presence of industrial or ritualistic activities, or simply because of the abundance of flammable materials within the city. This scenario, while perhaps less dramatic than divine wrath or ancient superweapons, is firmly rooted in the realities of daily life in an ancient city. It reminds us that even seemingly mundane activities, when combined with unfortunate circumstances, can have a profound and lasting impact on the historical record. The fire marks at Tanis, therefore, could be a testament not to a single catastrophic event, but to the complex interplay of human activity and the ever-present threat of fire in a world before modern fire prevention and suppression techniques. So, the sands of Tanis hold their secrets still. Was this once great city ravaged by the wrath of gods, as the ancient texts suggest? The story of Tanis is a reminder that the past is never truly gone. It lingers, buried beneath the sands, waiting to be rediscovered, reinterpreted, and perhaps to teach us lessons that resonate even in our own time. Nestled near the Fayum oasis, the Hawara pyramid site may appear unremarkable today, but to ancient historians it was a place of awe and grandeur. Herodotus, often called the father of history, described it in terms that still leave modern scholars in awe. He recounted that compared to the labyrinth he encountered, even the grandest Greek temples and pyramids paled in both effort and expense. It was a structure of such enormous scale and complexity that it surpassed even the famous pyramids of Egypt. For centuries, however, many dismissed his account as fanciful or exaggerated, especially given Herodotus's reputation for embellishment. However, as time passed, more of his descriptions have been vindicated, particularly regarding his accounts of Lake Moeris near Hawara. He spoke of two pyramids rising nearly 93 meters above the surface of the water, each crowned with a seated stone statue. In the late 19th century, famed British archaeologist Flinders Petrie confirmed the presence of two seated colossi, each about 18 meters high and made of hard quartzite sandstone. This discovery was one of many that would lend credence to Herodotus's words. The site of the Hawara pyramid holds far more than just these statues. When researchers began to investigate the pyramid itself, they unearthed evidence of remarkable ancient engineering. Despite its present appearance, a crumbling pile of dark mud, the pyramid conceals a megalithic core built with astounding precision. Beneath its decayed exterior, the masonry is of exceptional quality, with blocks fitted so tightly that not even a blade could slip between them. This core represents two distinct types of ancient technologies. One, the megalithic stone core, and the other, a more fragile mud brick construction that has long since crumbled. Flinders Petrie, a pioneer in the study of ancient Egyptian architecture, was the first to delve into this mystery in detail. He noted that the stone casing of the pyramid had been removed during Roman times, leaving the interior exposed to the elements. Unlike other pyramids of the time, the entrance to this one was on the south side, not the north, and lay at ground level. It was designed with descending passages that had ramps on both sides, resembling a system for moving heavy cargo. This unique layout distinguished the Hawara pyramid from others in Egypt, leading Petrie to believe that its original purpose may have been different from typical pyramids. One of the most astonishing aspects of the structure is its system of trapdoors. Massive stone slabs weighing around 20 tons each, designed to seal off passageways. Petrie discovered 3 such trapdoors, all of which had been left open. His exploration of the pyramid led him to a central chamber, carved from a single block of quartzite sandstone, forming a large tank-like structure in which a sarcophagus was placed. This colossal monolith, weighing over 110 tons, had been hewn with such precision, Petrie marveled at the technical skill required to carve and place such an enormous block of stone into a carefully excavated hollow. What truly puzzled Petrie, however, was the design of the tomb itself. There was no visible entrance, and the only way the pharaoh's body could have been placed inside would have been during the construction of the pyramid. Even more curiously, no inscriptions were found inside the chamber or on the sarcophagus, a rarity for a royal tomb. Instead, Petrie found only traces of charred bones, charcoal, and remnants of burnt diorite, suggesting that whatever had once been inside the sarcophagus had been deliberately destroyed by fire. The mystery deepened when Petrie examined a second sarcophagus in the chamber, one that appeared to have been added after the pyramid's construction. This later addition was smaller and lacked the technical precision of the original sarcophagus, raising questions about the purpose and timeline of the additions to the tomb. It was as though the pyramid had been used for multiple, distinct purposes over time, each contributing to its enigmatic history. While Petrie focused on the pyramid, he also uncovered evidence of a much larger structure nearby. The legendary labyrinth of Egypt, which had long been mentioned in ancient texts. Herodotus had described it as a massive complex of 3,000 rooms, arranged in a maze-like formation, some above ground and others below. He was forbidden from entering the underground chambers, as they were said to house the tombs of kings and sacred crocodiles. Yet what Herodotus saw above ground left him awestruck, and later historians would echo his astonishment. Strabo, a Greek geographer who visited the site centuries later, described the labyrinth's monolithic ceilings and walls, each constructed from enormous slabs of stone. When Petrie began excavating the area in front of the Hawara pyramid, he uncovered evidence of this labyrinth beneath the remains of a later village. Beneath the village, he found layers of stone chips and fragments, the remains of what had once been an enormous stone structure. He concluded that this was indeed the foundation of the fabled labyrinth. His findings aligned with the ancient accounts. The structure was so large that, as he noted, it could have contained the temples of Karnak and Luxor within its boundaries. However, the labyrinth had long since been destroyed, its stones quarried and repurposed by later generations. All that remained were the foundations and fragments, a ghost of the massive structure that had once stood there. And yet, despite the extensive damage, Petrie's findings suggested that this labyrinth had been far more than just a building. It was a monumental work of engineering and architecture that had once awed the ancient world. As we delve deeper into the mysteries of Hawara, it becomes clear that this site still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. The labyrinth described by Herodotus, Strabo, and other classical writers may not be entirely lost. In fact, modern technology has revealed tantalizing clues that suggest much of it may still lie hidden beneath the sands, waiting to be rediscovered. In the 21st century, new technologies have allowed researchers to explore the Hawara site in ways that Petrie could only have dreamed of. Ground-penetrating radar and other advanced tools have given archaeologists the ability to peer beneath the surface without disturbing the ancient ruins. One such expedition in 2008, led by the Mataja project, a team of geophysicists, used radar technology to investigate the area beneath what Petrie had identified as the foundation of the labyrinth. What they discovered was nothing short of remarkable, a vast network of walls and chambers buried deep beneath the surface. Their findings suggested that what Petrie had thought was a foundation might actually have been the roof of the labyrinth, which could still exist underground. The radar scans revealed a grid of rooms and passageways at depths of 8 to 12 meters, confirming the existence of a colossal structure that matched the descriptions given by ancient historians. Despite the significance of these findings, the news was met with unexpected resistance. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, led by Zahi Hawass, requested that the results be withheld from the public, citing concerns about national security. The Mataja team faced delays and obstacles, but after 2 years, they were finally able to publish their report. Their findings supported the ancient accounts of a labyrinth that was far larger than any temple known in Egypt, a structure that had remained hidden beneath the sands for millennia. The labyrinth's complexity and scale raised even more questions about its purpose. Why would such an enormous structure be built underground, and what was it used for? Some researchers speculated that it could have been a secret repository, a place where valuable artifacts or knowledge were stored. Others suggested that it might have served as a ceremonial or religious center, its labyrinthine corridors and chambers designed to disorient and awe those who entered. One of the most intriguing aspects of the labyrinth is its apparent age. The orientation of the structure, which is tilted by 20 to 25 degrees compared to the nearby Hawara pyramid, suggests that it may be much older than the pyramid itself. If this is true, it raises the possibility that the labyrinth predates the pharaohs and could be a relic of a much earlier civilization. Despite the advances in technology, many mysteries remain unsolved. The subterranean chambers have yet to be fully explored, and no one knows what lies within them. Could the labyrinth still contain treasures or texts from an ancient era? Could it hold clues to the origins of the Egyptians or even earlier cultures that inhabited the region? For now, these questions remain unanswered, as the labyrinth remains buried beneath layers of earth and time.
Located to the south of the Giza Pyramid complex, the Kromer dump is a crescent-shaped accumulation of ancient debris, a seemingly mundane collection of discarded materials. First excavated in the 1970s by the Austrian archaeologist Karl Kromer and later re-examined in 2018 by the Ancient Egypt Research Associates under the direction of Dr. Mark Lehner, the dump has been traditionally viewed through the lens of the Fourth Dynasty. The AERA's 2018 findings, for instance, led them to characterize it as a Fourth Dynasty demolition and trash heap, with materials consistent with a demolished royal rest house or small palace dating back to the reign of Khafre, builder of the Second Pyramid. This interpretation aligns with the prevailing understanding of Giza as a necropolis primarily developed during the Fourth Dynasty. However, Kromer's original findings, meticulously detailed in his extensive 1978 publication, Settlement Finds from the Early Old Kingdom in Giza, Austrian Excavations 1971 to 1975, paint a far more nuanced and intriguing picture. While acknowledging the undeniable presence of Fourth Dynasty materials, Kromer also identified a significant number of artifacts that he dated to the First, Second, and Third Dynasties of the early dynastic period. Even more provocatively, he believed some artifacts even hinted at pre-dynastic activity on the plateau, predating the unification of Egypt under Narmer, also known as Menes. This raises a fundamental question that challenges the conventional narrative. Was the Kromer dump merely a convenient disposal site for the Fourth Dynasty builders, or was it a repository for materials from a much older settlement, a vibrant community that thrived on the Giza plateau long before the pyramids were conceived? In his 1972 preliminary report, Kromer put forward a bold and, at the time, radical hypothesis. Based on his initial findings, he proposed that an extensive settlement existed on the site of the Giza plateau, flourishing from the First Dynasty through to the Third Dynasty. He postulated that at the beginning of the Fourth Dynasty, this settlement was deliberately demolished to make way for the construction of the royal necropolis, a grand project that would forever transform the landscape. This interpretation directly challenges the long-held view of Giza as a relatively vacant landscape before the Fourth Dynasty, suggesting instead that it was a site of significant human activity for centuries prior. If Kromer's hypothesis is correct, it would necessitate a fundamental reassessment of Giza's early history and the motivations behind the choice of this location for the royal cemetery. Kromer's claims were not based on mere speculation. but on a careful analysis of the artifacts unearthed from the dump. Let's delve deeper into the key pieces of evidence that support his hypothesis. Pottery, a ubiquitous find in archaeological contexts, often serves as a crucial indicator of chronology and cultural affiliation. Kromer identified numerous pottery shards within the dump that exhibited decorative scratch marks, reminiscent of styles associated with both the pre-dynastic Naqada II culture, 3500 to 3200 BCE, and the early dynastic cultures of Lower Egypt. The presence of these distinct pottery styles suggests that the Giza settlement may have had connections to, or was even inhabited by people from these earlier periods. Perhaps the most compelling and chronologically significant evidence comes from the clay ceilings found within the dump. Clay ceilings were used in ancient Egypt to secure containers, doors, and documents, often bearing impressions of cylinder seals or stamps that identified the owner, official, or institution responsible. Kromer discovered several clay ceilings depicting animal figures, hieroglyphic symbols, and geometric patterns. Based on stylistic comparisons with ceilings from other sites, he confidently dated a number of these ceilings to the Thinite period, a term used to describe the early dynastic period, dynasties 1 and 2, when the city of Tanis, near Abydos, served as the capital. In addition to pottery and ceilings, Kromer also uncovered a variety of stone tools, including fishing hooks, blades, and triangular scrapers. While these types of tools are not always definitively datable, as their forms can persist for long periods, their presence is consistent with pre-dynastic and early dynastic technologies. Their context within the dump, alongside the pottery and ceilings, strengthens the possibility of their earlier origins. Furthermore, the discovery of faience tiles within the dump adds another layer to the argument. Faience, a glazed ceramic material, was often used in royal and elite contexts. Kromer noted the similarity of these tiles to those found in the southern tomb of Djoser, the first pyramid builder of the Third Dynasty, located at Saqqara. This similarity suggests that structures of some significance, possibly even royal or administrative buildings, may have existed at Giza prior to the Fourth Dynasty. One of the most intriguing and debated finds from the Kromer dump is a small 3.6 centimeter long mud statuette of a Sphinx. Unearthed in Trench F, alongside the crucial early dynastic clay ceilings, this object, according to Kromer, could potentially be the oldest Sphinx statuette ever discovered in Egypt. However, it deviates significantly from the standard iconography of later Sphinx representations, sparking considerable debate about its date and meaning. The statuette's most striking feature is its lack of the iconic pharaonic Nemes headdress, the striped headcloth worn by royalty. Instead, it sports a meticulously detailed hairstyle with individual curls arranged in concentric circles. This unusual feature immediately sets it apart from the vast majority of known Sphinx statues, which almost invariably depict the royal headdress. Kromer, who firmly believed that the Great Sphinx of Giza was a creation of Khafre, tentatively dated the statuette to the same Fourth Dynasty reign. However, he acknowledged the stylistic peculiarities. The absence of the royal headdress, the crudeness of the carving, although the hair is remarkably detailed, and the unusual posture of the lion's body all raise questions about this attribution. The presence of pre-dynastic pottery at various locations on the Giza Plateau provides a crucial link to the earlier cultures that inhabited the region before the rise of the unified Egyptian state. The Ma'adi culture, a significant pre-dynastic culture that flourished in Lower Egypt from around 4000 to 3200 BCE, is of particular interest. Archaeological evidence, primarily in the form of pottery, confirms that the Ma'adi people had a presence at Giza. While the extent and nature of their occupation remain largely unknown, the Kromer dump, with its potentially pre-dynastic artifacts, offers a tantalizing glimpse into this earlier period. It raises the possibility that Giza was not merely a vacant landscape chosen for its strategic location by the Fourth Dynasty kings, but rather a site with a long and complex history, a place that may have held significance for the Ma'adi people and their predecessors.
In the ancient city of Luxor, hidden within its majestic temple walls, lies a mystery that challenges modern understanding of ancient Egypt's science and philosophy. Egyptologist Schwaller de Lubitsch, after 12 years of detailed study of the Temple of Luxor, proposed that the ancient Egyptians held a sophisticated and immutable knowledge, fully developed from the earliest dynasties. This knowledge, according to de Lubitsch, far surpassed that of other civilizations at the time, hinting at a deeper understanding of the universe. De Lubitsch's research into the temple's intricate carvings and architectural design led him to a remarkable discovery, which he called transparency in the stone blocks. While copying temple plans and examining wall carvings, he noticed tiny embedded stones in larger blocks, which had been previously dismissed as errors. De Lubitsch proposed that these stones were markers placed by the master builders for precise measurements. This realization spurred adjustments in his own measurements, leading to even more astonishing findings. He observed that carvings on opposite sides of some walls seemed to align in impossible ways, as if the stone between them was transparent, allowing the design to flow through. This phenomenon, which de Lubitsch likened to a see-through banknote, suggested a level of craftsmanship and intentionality that defied conventional understanding of ancient architecture. The temple's carvings could only be fully appreciated when viewed as a continuous design, transcending the physical stone. One striking example of this transparency is between Room 12 and Room 5 in the Temple of Luxor. A stone block separating these rooms features carvings that seem to project through the stone itself. In Room 12, a hieroglyph for cloth is carved, while in Room 5, a box for cloths appears. The two images fitting together as if the stone was transparent. The technical precision needed to achieve this effect raises profound questions about the knowledge and skills of the ancient builders. De Lubitsch's discoveries extended beyond transparency. He also identified transposition, where symbols and carvings were arranged across different parts of the temple to create multi-dimensional connections. For instance, Montu's solar disk in Room 2 is projected into the shrine of Amun-Ra's boat in Room 6. The boat's content is hidden, requiring the observer to explore multiple spaces to understand the intended meaning. These techniques suggest a level of philosophical and scientific depth in ancient Egyptian culture that modern Egyptology had long overlooked. De Lubitsch argued that the Egyptians weren't just concealing knowledge in their architecture, but were presenting a more profound, spatial form of understanding. By dividing concepts across different parts of the temple, the Egyptians created an environment where knowledge was experienced holistically, rather than as isolated facts or images. In his groundbreaking work on the Temple of Luxor, de Lubitsch revealed an entirely new architectural grammar. This grammar, found in the block's shapes, joints, and symbolic overlays, turned the Egyptian temple into a living library of knowledge, accessible only through deep study. His discoveries redefined how scholars approached ancient Egyptian architecture, leading to a re-evaluation of the intellectual achievements of this ancient civilization. The most revolutionary aspect of de Lubitsch's work was the realization that the meaning of inscriptions and symbols on one wall couldn't be fully understood without considering their relationships to the carvings around them. This interconnectivity suggested a three-dimensional approach to knowledge that engaged the observer on multiple levels. For de Lubitsch, the true purpose of transparency and transposition was not only to complete an idea, but to clarify it in a way that transcended traditional communication methods. As we explore the mysteries of the Temple of Luxor, it becomes clear that the ancient Egyptians had a unique understanding of art and science. Their use of transparency and transposition reflected a worldview that connected the physical and metaphysical, the material and immaterial. Transparency, in particular, hinted at a belief that solid matter was deceptive, with light, or knowledge itself, as the true fundamental reality. De Lubitsch's discoveries at the Temple of Luxor did more than challenge traditional views of Egyptian architecture. They opened the door to a new understanding of how the Egyptians viewed the world. Through transparency and transposition, de Lubitsch uncovered a sophisticated system of thought that extended beyond the temple. He believed that this system could be found in other artifacts, such as papyri, which contained multi-layered meanings to be understood holistically. Transparency, for example, was more than an architectural technique. It represented a deeper philosophical belief. By prioritizing light over solid matter, the Egyptians expressed a worldview that saw physical reality as secondary to the metaphysical. De Lubitsch suggested that this belief in the primacy of light explains why transparency was central to the Temple of Luxor's design. The stone blocks weren't just barriers, but conduits for knowledge and understanding. Transposition added yet another dimension to this philosophy, emphasizing the importance of seeing beyond the surface. To understand the temple fully, one had to move through it, experiencing the connections between different spaces and symbols. This design reflected an understanding of spatial awareness and perception that resonates with modern psychological theories, such as Gestalt. Gestalt psychology, which emerged in the early 20th century, focuses on the idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Human perception organizes individual elements into a unified whole, rather than analyzing each part in isolation. De Lubitsch's work mirrors this idea, as he argued that the carvings and inscriptions in the temple were part of a larger, interconnected system. Just as Gestalt theory emphasizes the importance of perceiving the overall form, de Lubitsch focused on perceiving the entire meaning of the temple. De Lubitsch's discoveries lead to profound questions. Who were the true sources of this knowledge? Were the Egyptians responsible for developing these advanced ideas, or were they inheritors of wisdom passed down from an even older civilization? And what can these ancient ideas teach us about the nature of reality? By connecting ancient Egyptian concepts with modern scientific theories, we uncover new insights into the mysteries of the past, and the possibility that the answers to our most profound questions may lie not in the future, but in the distant past. Imagine a world where time itself is a malleable force, where the boundary between life and death blurs, and immortality is no longer a dream, but a carefully guarded secret. This is the legend of Thoth, the mysterious god of wisdom from ancient Egypt. He is said to have discovered the key to eternal life, not through mysticism, but through methods that defy modern understanding. Could the ancient Egyptians have had access to technologies beyond our grasp, or is there something deeper hidden in the sands of time? Our journey begins at the Serapeum of Saqqara, an ancient site where massive stone boxes, weighing over 70 tons, were carved with such precision that even modern engineers are baffled. These boxes, made from solid diorite, one of the hardest stones in the world, seem impossible to have been created with the tools of the ancient world. But what if these were not merely tombs for the dead? What if they were advanced technologies, allowing beings like Thoth to rejuvenate and transfer their consciousness into new bodies, effectively cheating death? Legend tells us that Thoth would leave his body in one of these boxes for 100 years, allowing it to recharge and heal while his essence continued in another form. Could this explain why Thoth, the god of knowledge, was so revered across cultures and millennia? If these rejuvenation chambers are real, could they hold the secrets to eternal life? And was Thoth's quest for immortality unique, or did others throughout history share this secret? To find more answers, we turn to Mesopotamia, where the Sumerian Kings list records the reigns of rulers who lived for tens of thousands of years. Among them were the Anunnaki, demigods with both divine and earthly attributes. Some reigned for 28,000 years, others for 14,000 years, lifespans that defy all reason. What could possibly explain these impossibly long reigns? Did these rulers possess knowledge that could extend their lives, similar to Thoth? Or was their understanding of life and genetic engineering even more advanced? The mystery deepens when we examine the Great Flood, a cataclysmic event mentioned in both Sumerian and biblical texts. This disaster marked the end of the antediluvian kings who ruled before the flood. Afterward, kingship was reintroduced, but the reigns were far shorter. Some rulers lived for hundreds of years, but the era of reigns stretching tens of thousands of years was over. Why did this change occur? Could it be that the Anunnaki, who once ruled humanity, decided to limit the power of their successors? The texts suggest that these new rulers were still connected to the divine, but they were no longer immortal. Could the Great Flood have been a deliberate reset of human civilization to control human potential, preventing any individual from becoming too powerful? This leads us to an intriguing connection between ancient myth and modern science: genetic engineering. We know today that the human genome contains a unique anomaly, chromosome number 2, which appears to have been artificially fused. Geneticists estimate that this fusion occurred around 200,000 years ago, a timeline that aligns with the Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki creating humans. Could this be evidence of genetic modification? Were humans deliberately created to serve the Anunnaki, not just as laborers but as subordinates? Could our very lifespan, about 120 years, have been engineered as a form of control? Modern science also tells us that telomeres, the protective caps at the ends of our chromosomes, limit how many times a cell can divide. Once they degrade, we age and eventually die. In the Bible, it states that man's days shall be 120 years. Could this be a reflection of deliberate genetic tampering by the gods? Was humanity created with a built-in expiration date, ensuring we never lived long enough to rediscover the ancient knowledge of our creators? One of the most compelling stories supporting this theory is the Tower of Babel. Humans, united in their ambition, began constructing a tower to reach the heavens. Their goal was to reclaim the lost knowledge of the gods. But their efforts were stopped by Yahweh, also known as Enlil in Sumerian texts, who feared humanity was advancing too quickly. Enlil intervened, confusing their languages and scattering them across the earth. More importantly, he shortened human lifespans, ensuring no single generation would live long enough to challenge the gods again. Could the Tower of Babel have been more than just a symbol of human pride? Was it an effort to reclaim our lost potential, one that was deliberately suppressed by the gods? Could it be that our entire history has been shaped by a hidden agenda, a grand design orchestrated by beings like the Anunnaki? Have these forces deliberately limited human development to prevent us from reaching our full potential? Are our lifespans, societal divisions, and languages all part of a long-term plan to keep humanity from rediscovering its ancient knowledge? As we piece together this ancient puzzle, we are left with unsettling questions. Were we created with limitations deliberately set to keep us subservient? Could it be that the division of cultures and the loss of ancient knowledge were part of a grand design to control human progress? Or is there a forgotten history, a legacy waiting to be rediscovered, that could unlock the mysteries of our origins, and perhaps our future? But what if these stories are not just myths? What if they are fragments of a larger puzzle, a puzzle that could offer profound insight into the hidden history of human existence? Let's return to the idea of genetic manipulation. Modern science has uncovered a unique anomaly in the human genome, chromosome 2, fused in a way that no other species on Earth exhibits. This genetic event is believed to have occurred around 200,000 years ago, a timeline eerily close to the Sumerian accounts of the Anunnaki creating humans for labor. If this fusion was deliberate, what does it mean for humanity? Could we have been engineered to serve the needs of an advanced race wielding power beyond our understanding? Here's the real question. Could we still be under this influence today? As we unlock the mysteries of the human genome, are we on the verge of rediscovering the knowledge hidden from us for thousands of years? Could telomeres, once thought to be a natural limitation, hold the key to extending life far beyond what we've believed is possible? And if so, are there still forces at play, preventing humanity from rising to its full potential? The truth may be hidden in ancient texts, unexplored history, or perhaps even encoded within our DNA. As we continue to explore these mysteries, the lines between myth, science, and reality will blur. The question remains, are we ready to discover the truth? Beneath the Giza Plateau, near the Great Sphinx and pyramids, lies a mysterious structure that may reshape our understanding of ancient Egypt. Known as the Osiris Shaft, this subterranean complex challenges conventional timelines. Could it predate the pyramids? And what was its true purpose? Recent discoveries and a groundbreaking dating method have led Egyptologists to rethink what they thought they knew about this ancient civilization. The Osiris Shaft descends 35 meters into the bedrock beneath the causeway leading to the Sphinx. It comprises multiple levels, with the lowest chamber housing a granite sarcophagus surrounded by water. This chamber is sometimes referred to as the Tomb of Osiris. But what exactly was this structure intended for? Its purpose remains shrouded in mystery, with no clear answers in sight. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Osiris Shaft is the unusual material used in one of the sarcophagi. Egyptologists discovered a stone unlike anything previously found in Egypt. How did it end up here, deep in the bedrock? Even stranger, the structure itself seems to have been designed without easy access in mind. There are no steps or ladders leading down to its depths. The ones installed now were placed there by modern archaeologists, suggesting that the ancient builders had no intention of facilitating frequent visits. The logistics of moving the massive sarcophagi, some weighing up to 40 tons, further deepen the mystery. How were they lowered with such precision into the shaft, which itself was not designed for easy entry or exit? The precision required to lower these gigantic objects without error suggests a technological ability that we do not fully understand. One sarcophagus found on the second level was particularly remarkable. It was covered in a thin film of bitumen, with a metallic coating beneath it. This metal, containing elements like lead and zinc, is puzzling. Why use a metallic coating inside a sarcophagus? Lead, in particular, raises questions, as it is known today for its use in radiation shielding. Could the ancient Egyptians have been aware of this? Moreover, measurements showed unusually high levels of gamma radiation inside the sarcophagus, further hinting at a function beyond burial. The method used to date one of these sarcophagi, called optical thermoluminescence, measures the last time the stone was exposed to light. The results suggested a date as far back as 3,350 BCE, centuries before the accepted construction dates of the pyramids. This implies that the Osiris Shaft could predate the pyramids and the earliest dynasties of Egypt. What's even more curious is the material of one sarcophagus, dacite, an igneous rock not found anywhere in Egypt. In fact, after consulting with geologists, it was confirmed that there are no significant dacite deposits in Africa large enough to produce a sarcophagus of this size. This means the stone was transported from outside the continent, perhaps from Europe or the Black Sea. The logistics of transporting a 40-ton block of stone across seas and deserts remains a mystery. Why didn't the builders use locally sourced granite or basalt, which would have been far easier to acquire? This discovery challenges long-standing views on ancient Egypt's chronology. The dating method used reveals a time well before the pyramids, offering a glimpse into a distant past. Could the Osiris Shaft represent the work of a forgotten civilization, one whose achievements have been lost to time? As we explore the depths of the shaft, more questions emerge. Was the shaft's design deliberate, meant to preserve the dead using unknown methods? Could the high radiation levels within the sarcophagi have played a role in ancient preservation techniques? The builders of this structure may have known things we have yet to uncover. As archaeologists delve deeper into the Osiris Shaft, they challenge established notions of ancient Egypt. On the third and deepest level, a stone island surrounded by water holds yet another granite sarcophagus. This time, the sarcophagus is made of granite, a material more common in Egyptian structures. However, its location deep underground and surrounded by water raises further questions. This sarcophagus dates to around 2370 BCE, placing it in the Old or Middle Kingdom. Interestingly, the design of the third level seems to be a later addition to the shaft, suggesting the site may have been used and modified over centuries. If true, this means the Osiris shaft was considered important long before the time of the pyramids. One of the most intriguing features of the third level is the water system. A meticulously shaped canal surrounds the chamber, and the water level appears to be maintained at a precise depth. How did the builders engineer such a system over 100 feet underground? The bedrock in this area is solid, making natural water leaks unlikely. This suggests that the builders tapped into a hidden water source, possibly through an underground channel or spring. At the Osirion, another ancient Egyptian site, similar subterranean water channels have been discovered, indicating that the ancient builders had advanced knowledge of hydroengineering. Water was often seen as a source of life and regeneration, and its presence in the Osiris shaft may have had symbolic significance in ancient rituals related to death and rebirth. This brings us to the connection between the shaft and Osiris, the Egyptian god of the dead and the underworld. According to myth, Osiris was resurrected in a sarcophagus placed on an island surrounded by water. The third level of the shaft closely mirrors this imagery. Could the builders have been trying to replicate the tomb of Osiris? Or was this part of a deeper religious practice? Oddly, the sarcophagi found in the Osiris shaft are devoid of inscriptions, which is unusual for ancient Egyptian tombs. This absence of hieroglyphs has led some scholars to suggest that these sarcophagi were not intended for traditional burials, but served a different, perhaps secretive, purpose. Adding to the mystery, researchers detected significant levels of radiation inside the sarcophagi. Combined with the lead coating found on the second level, this suggests that the sarcophagi might have had an advanced preservative function, something we do not yet fully understand. If the ancient Egyptians had knowledge of radiation's effects on preservation, it would represent a technological leap far beyond what we currently attribute to their civilization. Beyond the physical mysteries, the Osiris shaft raises important questions about the origins of Egyptian civilization. The dating of the second-level sarcophagus to as early as 3350 BCE points to a pre-dynastic origin, making the shaft one of the oldest structures in Egypt. As we continue to investigate the Osiris shaft, the possibility of discovering hidden chambers, artifacts, or tunnels remains high. The Osiris shaft is rewriting our understanding of ancient Egypt and perhaps even pointing to a forgotten chapter in human history.
The sands of Egypt hold countless secrets, whispers of a civilization that flourished thousands of years ago. We are captivated by the grandeur of the pyramids, the enigmatic gaze of the Sphinx, and the intricate hieroglyphs that adorn temple walls. But sometimes, the most intriguing mysteries are found in the smaller, seemingly unusual artifacts. Today, we delve into one such enigma, the curious case of ancient Egyptian ear tablets. Our story begins in the 1930s, near the majestic Great Sphinx of Giza. Dr. Salim Hassan, a prominent Egyptologist, was leading excavations in and around the New Kingdom Sphinx temple built by Amenhotep II, as well as within the Sphinx's enclosure itself. Amidst the expected finds, something peculiar emerged. Stone stelae, not inscribed with the usual hieroglyphs or divine figures but with carvings of human ears. These were not isolated occurrences. Dozens of these ear tablets were unearthed, presenting a perplexing puzzle.
The material culture of ancient Egypt, rich in its symbolism and artistry, provides a profound understanding of the civilization's religious beliefs and practices. From the monumental scale of temple architecture to the intricate detail of personal adornments, every object offers a potential window into the ancient Egyptian worldview. Among the more unusual and intriguing artifacts are the so-called ear stellae, or ear tablets, votive objects typically made of stone, featuring carvings of human ears. Predominantly dating to the New Kingdom, These objects have been discovered at various sites across Egypt, with a notable concentration around the Great Sphinx of Giza. This video aims to analyze the phenomenon of ear stellae, drawing upon archaeological evidence, epigraphic inscriptions, and previous scholarly interpretations. It will further explore the social and cultural implications of these artifacts, examining their role in personal piety and their place within the wider context of New Kingdom religious practices. The discovery of a significant number of ear stellae in the 1930s by Egyptian archaeologist Selim Hassan during excavations on the Giza Plateau provides a crucial foundation for understanding these artifacts. Hassan's meticulous work, particularly in the vicinity of the New Kingdom Sphinx temple, constructed by Amenhotep II, and within the Sphinx's enclosure itself, revealed a clear association between ear stellae and the Sphinx during this period. These findings, as meticulously documented in Hassan's multi-volume excavations at Giza, are fundamental to any serious study of the subject. Ear stellae exhibit a fascinating range of iconographic variations, reflecting the diversity of artistic expression and potentially different levels of patronage. Some stellae feature a single, large, and prominently carved ear, while others depict multiple ears, sometimes numbering in the dozens, arranged in rows or clusters. The quality of craftsmanship also varies considerably, from finely detailed and polished examples to more rudimentary and less refined carvings. This variation might suggest production by both skilled artisans, perhaps attached to temple workshops, and individuals of lesser means, possibly creating their own votive offerings. The stelae are often inscribed with a dedicatory formula, typically beginning with the phrase "made by," followed by the name, and sometimes the title of the dedicator. This formulaic phrase is common on New Kingdom votive objects and provides valuable information about the individuals who commissioned and dedicated these stelae. For example, a finely crafted stele found in the vicinity of the Sphinx, featuring two well-defined ears and a depiction of Horemakhet in the form of a hawk, bears the inscription "Made by Hui." Another, discovered nearby and possibly the largest ear stele ever found, features a single imposing ear alongside a smaller figure of a deity perched on a pedestal. This stele is inscribed "Made by May." This May is likely the same individual documented in inscriptions found on the cliffs near the Khafre Pyramid. These inscriptions identify him as an overseer of works under Ramesses the Great, responsible for quarrying stone from the Khafre Pyramid complex for the construction of a new sun temple at Heliopolis. The fact that a high-ranking official like May, involved in major royal building projects, also dedicated an ear stele to the Sphinx, underscores the potential social range of individuals who participated in this practice, extending from high officials to, as suggested by the simpler stele, commoners. The prevailing interpretation of ear stellae, advanced by pioneering Egyptologists like Flinders Petrie and Selim Hassan, posits that these objects served as intermediaries in facilitating communication between worshippers and the divine. The carved ears were believed to act as conduits or receptors for prayers, ensuring that the devotees' petitions reached the intended deity. This interpretation aligns with the broader ancient Egyptian concept of divine accessibility through intermediaries, a concept well documented in the use of statues, divine images, and other cult objects that served as focal points for worship and communication with the gods. Petrie, in his seminal work Religious Life in Ancient Egypt, specifically connected the imagery of ears on these stelae to the act of hearing prayers, suggesting a direct and literal interpretation of the iconography. Hassan, in his excavation reports, further developed this idea, proposing that the ears served as symbolic substitutes for the actual ears of the god, effectively creating a direct channel for auditory communication. The presence of multiple ears on some stelae has prompted various hypotheses and scholarly debates. Wilhelm Spiegelberg, in his early 20th century studies, notably in the Zeitschrift für Ägyptische Sprache und Altertumskunde, proposed a connection to a deity with 77 ears and 77 eyes, suggesting a being of extraordinary sensory perception. While direct textual evidence for such a specific deity remains elusive, an inscription at the Temple of Khnum at Esna describes this creator god as having 77 eyes and 77 ears, lending some credence to the idea of deities with heightened or multiplied sensory capabilities. Alternative and perhaps more pragmatic, Explanations for the multiple ears include the representation of multiple prayers or petitions being offered simultaneously. Each ear could symbolize a separate prayer, either from the same individual or from multiple individuals, such as a family or a community. Another possibility is that the multiple ears served as a kind of fail-safe mechanism, ensuring that the message would reach the god even if some of the ears were damaged or defaced, a practical consideration given the potential for wear and tear on objects placed in open-air sanctuaries. The significant concentration of ear stelae discovered in the immediate vicinity of the Great Sphinx is of particular importance and cannot be overlooked. During the New Kingdom, the Sphinx experienced a dramatic revival in religious importance. It became identified as Hawara, meaning Horus in the horizon, a powerful solar deity associated with kingship and divine protection. The pharaohs of the 18th and 19th dynasties, including Thutmose IV, Amenhotep II, Tutankhamun, and Ramesses the Great, actively promoted the cult of the Sphinx. They undertook extensive renovations of the Sphinx enclosure, constructed new temples dedicated to Hawara, and erected royal stelae within the sacred precinct. The famous Dream Stele of Thutmose IV, for example, narrates a divine encounter with Hawara, who promised the throne to the young prince in exchange for clearing the sand that had encroached upon the Sphinx. This royal patronage elevated the Sphinx to a position of national religious prominence. The ear stelae of New Kingdom Egypt offer a unique and intriguing glimpse into the religious landscape of the period. These artifacts, with their distinctive iconography and inscriptions, provide tangible evidence of a specific form of votive practice, centered on the concept of auditory communication with the divine. While the precise details of the rituals associated with ear stelae remain open to interpretation, their connection to prominent deities like Hawara and Ptah, as well as their widespread geographical distribution, underscore their significance within the broader context of New Kingdom religious beliefs and practices. Hidden deep in the desert sands of Abydos, approximately 350 miles south of the Great Pyramid of Giza, stands the Osirion, a monumental structure shrouded in mystery. Its origins, purpose, and design have baffled archaeologists and researchers for decades. Unlike the well-known temples of ancient Egypt, the Osirion defies traditional pharaonic architectural norms, leading some to believe it could be the product of a much older, technologically advanced civilization. Could this ancient structure hold the key to a forgotten chapter of human history? The first puzzle presented by the Osirion lies in its striking architectural divergence from typical Egyptian temples. While most temples of the pharaonic era adhere to a linear rectangular layout, the Osirion's design breaks the mold with its unique L-shaped configuration. This anomaly alone raises critical questions about the intentions behind its construction. Was it built for a different purpose than Egypt's standard religious edifices? Or does it reflect the architectural style of an unknown, perhaps much older culture? Adding to the mystery is the Osirion's relationship with the nearby temple of Seti Prayus, built during the 19th dynasty. Archaeological evidence suggests that the Osirion predates the temple of Seti Ras by centuries, if not millennia, implying that the site held significant importance long before the reign of Seti. This ancient structure was already in place when Seti chose to build his temple beside it, as though honoring an ancient relic from a bygone era. What made the Osirion so significant, and why did it attract the attention of the Egyptian kings? The sheer scale of the Osirion is awe-inspiring. The core of the structure is composed of massive rose granite blocks, some of which weigh an astonishing 100 tons. These immense stones were quarried from Aswan, located over 200 miles to the south, a logistical challenge that seems insurmountable given the tools and technology traditionally attributed to the Egyptians of the time. Moving these massive blocks across hundreds of miles of desert, and then precisely positioning them in a desert location far from the Nile, is a feat that defies explanation. Without evidence of advanced machinery, how were these massive stones transported and assembled with such precision? The Osirion's architecture, featuring a sophisticated double-layered roofing system and interlocking wedges, suggests a level of engineering knowledge far beyond what ancient Egypt is known to have possessed. The use of granite, a hard and unforgiving material, only adds to the mystery. Working with granite requires advanced tools and knowledge, skills that, according to historical records, the Egyptians had not yet developed during the early dynastic periods. Another striking feature of the Osirion is its complete lack of Egyptian hieroglyphs or artwork. In contrast to nearly every other Egyptian temple or monument, which are richly decorated with carvings, inscriptions, and illustrations, the Osirion is eerily bare. Throughout Egypt's history, temples were frequently renovated, with each generation adding new inscriptions and artwork. Even more unusual is the Osirion's subterranean layout, which is highly uncharacteristic of Egyptian temple architecture. The entire structure lies 15 feet below ground level, leading some researchers to propose that the temple could be far older than its surrounding counterparts. The idea that it predates the buildup of sand and soil that has accumulated over millennia suggests a timeline stretching back to an era before the sands of Egypt's desert even existed in their current form. Water erosion patterns found on the limestone enclosure surrounding the Osirion add yet another layer to the mystery. Some researchers argue that these erosion marks could only have been caused by a much wetter climate, possibly dating the structure back to the end of the last ice age, when the region experienced more rainfall. If true, this would place the Osirion's construction over 10,000 years ago, far earlier than the dynastic Egyptian civilization. Perhaps the most intriguing feature of the Osirion is the presence of water within the structure itself. Modern seismic technology has revealed that the visible portion of the Osirion is only the uppermost part of a much larger complex, which extends at least 50 feet below the current floor level. Beneath the surface, seismic tests have indicated the presence of hollow chambers, which have yet to be explored due to the water that continually fills the site. Despite multiple attempts, archaeologists have been unable to drain the water, which seems to replenish at an alarming rate. The source of this water remains unknown, and its continuous flow presents a baffling enigma. Some researchers suggest that the Osirion's complex hydraulic system, which includes channels, basins, and possibly sluices, was designed to control and manipulate water flow within the structure. The precision of these features points to an advanced understanding of hydraulic engineering, something not typically associated with ancient Egyptian technology. While the Egyptians were known for their use of irrigation canals and basins for agriculture, the Osirion's water management techniques are far more sophisticated. The mysteries of the Osirion continue to deepen as researchers attempt to unlock its secrets. The constant replenishment of water within the structure defies explanation. James Westerman, a renowned archaeologist and historian, has spent decades studying the Osirion. His efforts to pump out the water from the structure have been met with frustration. Even with a pump capable of removing 500 gallons of water per minute, the water level continues to rise, seemingly replenishing itself faster than it can be removed. Westerman's words capture the perplexity of the situation. Water is emerging from inside the structure. This shouldn't be happening, especially in the desert. Something strange is going on here. In 2023, Westerman's team employed advanced technology to analyze the water within the Osirion, measuring its pressure, temperature, conductivity, and chemical composition. The results were astounding. The water in the Osirion was found to have a unique chemical profile, different from the surrounding wells and aquifers in the area. Westerman's research suggested that the water was being forced up through the structure, almost as though it were being propelled by some unknown force. The water's chemical composition and isotopic profile indicated that it did not originate from the nearby Nile River or local aquifers. Where, then, is this water coming from? The Osirion's water behaves more like that of a geyser, but without the typical signs of volcanic activity. Is there an underground spring or reservoir beneath the structure, or could the water be flowing from a deeper, as yet undiscovered source? One of the most intriguing aspects of the water is its unique properties. Westermann conducted hydrologic studies and found that the water within the Osirion was drinkable after filtration. Over time, Westermann began drinking the water regularly, and he noticed something extraordinary. His eyesight began to improve. A lifelong sufferer of nearsightedness, Westermann eventually no longer needed glasses, a fact that was confirmed by an eye test. Could the water from the Osirion possess healing properties? Westermann believes so and continues to drink the water, attributing his improved vision to its mysterious qualities. Yet another anomaly is the temperature of the water. The water outside the Osirion measures a consistent 16.9 degrees Celsius, but the water inside the structure is significantly warmer, measuring 23.8 degrees Celsius. This temperature difference defies the second law of thermodynamics, which states that heat cannot spontaneously transfer from a cooler to a warmer body. Something within the Osirion is heating the water, but no one knows what it is or how it is happening. As researchers continue to study the Osirion, its true scale and purpose remain elusive. What is visible today may only be the tip of the iceberg. The structure extends far beneath the surface, with hidden chambers still unexplored due to the constant flow of water. Could these underground chambers hold more secrets about the origins of the Osirion and its builders? As we probe deeper into the Osirion's mysteries, we are left with more questions than answers. One thing is certain: this ancient structure is far older and more complex than we ever imagined, and it may hold the key to understanding a lost chapter of human history. Egypt, once a mighty empire, had been weakened by internal strife and external pressures. The Persians, under Cambyses II, dealt a significant blow by conquering Egypt in the 6th century BC. Although Egyptians managed to regain independence for a time, they were never quite the same force. This vulnerability paved the way for Alexander the Great's conquest in 332 BC. Unlike the Persians, who largely imposed their rule, Alexander cleverly integrated himself into the Egyptian framework. He recognized the power of the Egyptian gods and even participated in their rituals, a strategic move to gain the acceptance of his new subjects. He started the construction of a temple dedicated to the goddess Isis, demonstrating his respect for Egyptian religious traditions. After Alexander's untimely death, his vast empire was divided amongst his generals. Ptolemy I Soter, a shrewd and capable leader, emerged as the ruler of Egypt. In 305 BC, he declared himself pharaoh, marking the beginning of the Ptolemaic dynasty. This wasn't just a change in leadership, it was a cultural shift. This Greek dynasty reigned for almost 300 years, ending with Cleopatra's tragic death. The Ptolemies brought their Greek heritage, including their mythology, into Egypt. They were a rather insular bunch, maintaining their Greek identity through, well, a lot of intermarrying. 10 out of 15 Ptolemaic marriages were between siblings. Most rulers didn't even bother learning Egyptian. Cleopatra was the exception, the first and last of her line to master the language. The Ptolemies, though of Greek origin, understood the importance of respecting Egyptian traditions to maintain their power. They adopted Egyptian titles, participated in religious ceremonies, and even portrayed themselves in traditional pharaonic style. However, they also brought their own Greek heritage with them. This led to a unique blend of cultures, evident in art, architecture, and religion. Temples like the one discovered in Pelusium are a testament to this fusion. While dedicated to Greek gods, they were likely influenced by Egyptian architectural styles, and may have even incorporated elements of Egyptian religious practices. But Pelusium's story predates the Ptolemies. It was a key player in the Persian conquest of Egypt in 525 BC. The young pharaoh Psemtik III faced the formidable Persian king Cambyses II. Psemtik, betrayed by his Greek allies and plagued by bad omens, stood no chance. The Battle of Pelusium was a bloodbath. Legend has it, the Persians exploited the Egyptians' reverence for cats, using them as shields to advance on the city. Unable to harm the sacred animals, the Egyptians were routed. Psemtik was captured and ultimately took his own life, marking the end of an era for Egypt. The sands of time quite literally swallowed Pelusium whole. Despite its once strategic importance as a bustling port city and a key military stronghold, its location at the Pelusiac branch of the Nile Delta proved to be its downfall. Over centuries, the relentless Nile deposited silt that gradually choked the harbour, cutting off its lifeline to the Mediterranean. As the coastline receded, Pelusium lost its strategic advantage and its economic importance dwindled. By 1100 AD, it was completely abandoned, left to the mercy of the encroaching desert. The city's decline and eventual burial under layers of sand explain why the temple remained hidden for so long. Early excavations in 1910, led by French Egyptologist Jean Clédat, offered tantalizing clues. He uncovered inscriptions mentioning a sacred enclosure dedicated to Zeus Casios, but the temple itself remained elusive. Fast forward to 2022, and a team of archaeologists from the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, led by Dr. Mustafa Waziri, were conducting excavations at the Tel Farama site, the location of ancient Pelusium. They unearthed massive granite columns, some reaching a height of 12 meters, toppled and fragmented. These colossal columns, along with limestone walls and other architectural elements, confirmed the existence of the long-lost temple of Zeus Casios. Mount Casios, a towering peak located on the border between what is now Syria and Turkey, held immense religious importance for millennia. It was revered as a sacred space by various cultures, including the Canaanites, Phoenicians, and Greeks. For the Greeks, Mount Casios was inextricably linked to Zeus. The epithet Casios likely derives from the mountain itself, suggesting a fusion of the Greek god Zeus with a local deity worshipped on Mount Casios. This blending of divine figures reflects the cultural exchange and syncretism that characterized the ancient world, particularly in regions like Pelusium, where different civilizations converged. Mount Casios was steeped in mythology. According to Greek legend, it was the site of a titanic battle between Zeus and the fearsome monster Typhon. Typhon, a monstrous serpent with 100 fire-breathing heads, challenged Zeus for control of the cosmos. The epic clash between these powerful forces shook the very foundations of the earth. Ultimately, Zeus emerged victorious, casting Typhon into the depths of Tartarus, a deep abyss in the underworld. Mount Casios wasn't always associated with Zeus. Long before the Greeks arrived, it was known as Mount Zaphon, a sacred site for the Canaanites who worshipped Baal, the formidable storm god. Like Zeus Casios, Baal was intrinsically linked to the mountain, embodying the forces of nature, storms, rain, and the fertility they brought. This connection to Baal adds another dimension to the temple story. It suggests that the site held religious significance long before the Greeks arrived, highlighting the continuity and evolution of religious beliefs in this region. The influence of Baal extended even to the Egyptian pantheon. He became the prototype for Set, the god of chaos, storms, and the desert. This demonstrates the fluidity of religious ideas in the ancient world, where deities and myths were adopted, adapted, and transformed across cultures. The story takes another turn with the arrival of the Romans. Emperor Hadrian, known for his passion for Greek culture and his extensive travels throughout the Roman Empire, took a particular interest in the temple of Zeus Casios. Inscriptions found within the ruins indicate that he undertook renovations, likely restoring and embellishing the structure, showcasing the enduring appeal of this sacred site across different empires and eras. The Temple of Zeus Casios at Pelusium truly embodies the cultural melting pot that characterized the ancient Mediterranean world. It reflects the convergence of Canaanite, Greek, Egyptian, and Roman influences, highlighting the exchange of ideas, beliefs, and artistic traditions that shaped this region. This archaeological discovery provides a tangible link to this rich and layered past. reminding us of the interconnectedness of ancient civilizations.